Good time of the day, my friends. This is Tatiana and welcome to my channel. Today I'm channeling the art piece dedicated to coral reef restoration. As you all know, I'm creating a collection of art pieces depicting a marine life. So the portion of the profits of the sales of my artwork can go toward the coral reef restoration project. First and foremost, I create a sketch of the fish right in the center of the canvas. Notice the way I'm holding a pencil. It's about 45 degrees, so I can create the longer pencil strokes and cover my composition faster. Today I'm using a picture of the fish that I think I got from Pinterest. It's easier to rely on the picture than drawing from your imagination, especially if you're a beginner. But sometimes I'm not using pencil at all, kind of having a more of expressionistic out of imagination creation and channeling of the artwork. For ocean background, I'm using cobalt blue watercolor. In the description of this video, I will leave the information which brushes and watercolors I'm using. In a composition like that, it is important to cover the most background, so when you put the color to the main objects, you're able to see the comparison between the colors of the background and the main objects. Next, I'm applying the neutral tint color to the shadows of the fish. For the shadow, I'm using a smaller brush because it is a smaller object, so I'm trying to cover most of the shadow first. However, sometimes I prefer to put the base color on the object first and then transition from the lighter into dark shadows. Don't forget to use a palette to see which shadows are lighter and where you need to put the darker shadows to give a contrast and a depth to a fish. Sometimes what I find is that many artists start paying too much attention to the details losing the whole focus on the entire artwork. When you feel like that happens to you, don't be afraid to stand up, walk away, come back to your artwork, look at it from the distance, see if there are any adjustments towards your color palette you need to do. What I like about this particular piece is that it has bright spots on the fish as well, so it kind of makes the artwork stand out. To cover the spots on the first fish, I'm using quinacridone red. Let me see if I said it right. Quinacridone. Yep, sounded right. So for the shapes, again, you need to use your best judgment. Try to depict it as close as to the picture, but not necessarily. That's the beauty of any art pieces, that you can follow your intuition. As a base for second fish, I'm using burnt sienna. It's a good color to depict golden effect of any objects you paint. As here, I'm trying to cover the entire fish as a base, overlapping the shadows, giving the golden effect to the shadows as well. For the spots of the second fish, I'm using cadmium red light color, giving it again a depth and kind of a 3D effect and making the artwork stand out. I think it's definitely a great color to have kind of a pop feeling to your artwork. And of course, sometimes mistakes can happen and the color can start dripping. What you can do in that case is you can pick up the dry napkin and kind of like brush off the color of your artwork. To highlight the part where the sun is falling on the top of the fish, I'm putting yellow watercolor on top of the red color, and it gives it a little bit of that shiny look as if the sun is falling on its spine. Throughout the artwork progression, I constantly keep coming back to adding little details where I think it needs a little bit more color or a little bit more details. So don't be afraid to come back and make an adjustment, straighten out the lines, boosting the color or correcting your mistakes. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it's a part of the learning process as well. And in this case, my water was dripping with the color. And what I did here is I covered it with blue and gray colors, which also provides the depth to the ocean and make fish stand out a little bit more from the background of the ocean. To show the depth of the painting, I'm adding the shadows for the fish, and in this case I'm using gray with the blue. So I decided to give to the artwork a little bit of action, and I dripped some water, the cobalt blue, on the artwork, making sure that you have it horizontal so the water doesn't drip. To accentuate the shadows and the details of the fish, I'm using pencil. It also helps me to make the lines straight, and so I'm kind of covering the shadow parts of the fish and making it a little bit more contrast. If you are a beginner, it might be a little bit more difficult to use a small watercolor brush to make small lines. So that's why a pencil is a good helper in those cases, to make the little lines straight, adding little shadows where it's needed, and accentuate the artwork. If your artwork is still a little bit wet, making sure you give it enough time to dry before you start working on the details. But if you feel it's still a little bit wet, then you can use the napkin to hold it under your wrist so that the napkin absorbs the moisture. But preferably you should wait until the artwork dries out. Alright, so our artwork starts looking a little bit more complete. If you guys have any questions or any advice for me, I would be more than glad to read your comments in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe or leave me a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. Remember that together we can make the difference in the world and take care of oceans and our marine life. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.